Welcome to Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. How are my peeps doing this morning? Good morning. We are going to have a great show for you today. Are you in your car? Are you on the phone? Where are you right now? We're going to have a great show. Anyway, folks, lots happening in the world. How are the folks in the control room? Senor Reynolds and Jack Van Beber. How are things going out there?
Well, so far we are upright with the pulse, so I guess we're going to be okay. And the tin cans and strings seem to have held together this morning.
We're on this side of the dirt, Egberto.
Well, you know what?
Well,
if we're on this side of the... Yeah, most of us are. You know, interestingly, just as I was about to get onto the call, onto the radio, onto the station, I get a fax that an old friend of ours, we kind of expected it, but today was his last day with us on Earth. And I don't know how I feel about it. As we are getting older, you sit down and wonder what's life all about. And then you sit back and you say again, you know what? There's no time on this planet to spend your time hating and all that kind of stuff. Let's try a bit better, man. You know, let's try.
No time to waste.
Yeah, no time to waste, man. No time to waste. Think about your fellow man. And you know what, Howard, Jack, that is one of the things that I think I'm moving forward with, and why I am doing this kind of stuff that I'm doing right now. We're doing this kind of stuff that we're doing because you know what, people matter, and you know we really have to make sure that those who don't think this kind of a way think people first, that they don't get the upper hand. Anyhow, Jack Van Beber, what is the word of the morning?
Well, I've been thinking about, women's reproductive rights and the attack on women. Basically, it seems like they're finding their workarounds for, going out of state to a blue state and getting their business taken care of. And I was thinking also about Lonesome Dove and old Augustus McCrae and what he might think about this situation. So I wrote a little ditty. Augustus McCrae is rolling in his grave if he saw how we cut the cards with women today.
Well, that's what that rumbling is. Somebody rolling over in their grave.
That was it.
I wondered what it was.
Well, you know, what can I say? Good thoughts, my brother. Good thoughts, good thoughts. Anyhow, we're going to get busy with this program. We have 4 topics today. But we don't have to go through all 4, dependent on what you all who are listeners want to do. Please remember that this is, in fact, a call-in show. The telephone number is 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. If you want to get to us before we start playing videos, before we start talking, you can call anytime, 713-526-5738. Please remember that you can reach us many ways. Those of you that are listening to us on air right now, kudos to you, 90.1 FM at the dial. You can also download the TuneIn program from your Android or Apple store, and don't download TuneIn and simply go ahead and find KPFT and listen to us on your phone. Alternatively, you can go to our website, kpft.org, and click on that listen button. Or you can watch us. Yes, you can watch us on air right away. Go to facebook.com/KPFT Houston. Again, that is facebook.com/KPFT Houston. And of course, if you are a YouTube fiend or you have your YouTube app on, you can go to politicsdoneright.tv, and watch us on YouTube. So, folks, there are a lot of ways to get to us. By the way, you don't like what you hear, you like what you hear, you love what you hear, you hate what you hear, drop me a line, kpft@politicsdoneright.com, kpft@politicsdoneright.com. Of course, again, it's a call-in show. Give us a call, 713-526-5738. Title of the show today, EVs Win. That means electric vehicles, guys. SCOTUS rejects Fringe Theory. SCOTUS is Supreme Court of the United States. Obama calls out the GOP. Why would he do that? And Trump's traitorous tapes. And I think the Trump traitorous tapes, we need to all hear it. So in every platform that has audio that I'm on, I make sure that every United States citizen hear what someone we called president for 4 years was like behind the scenes. You know, when you think about the United States presidency, you think about seriousness, you think about responsibility, you think about somebody who should really have the weight of the country on their backs. They should be thoughtful. They should be all these things at once. And, a lot of presidents didn't quite come across in person that way, but behind the scenes, one could see that they were thoughtful. I mean, from President Carter to President Nixon to all these presidents were serious people, absent, of course, Reagan and Trump. Even Bush 1 and Bush 2, behind the scenes, there was a seriousness about them in understanding that the importance of their job. I remember we used to like to call, there was this phrase going around about Bush that said, Texas lost its resident idiot, right? That, not a kind thing to say, but that is how many had thought about George W. Bush, which now, after having a President Trump, he seemed like a genius. I mean, the interesting thing about it, when I talk about the thoughtfulness behind the scenes, he made a lot of I'm talking about George W. Bush now, made a lot of faux pas in public, but I never forgot when the right wing went to George W. Bush on two particular issues that gained me respect for the guy that I once never, ever had, right? Number one, when they came to him for yet another tax cut. And you could see where his heart was when they asked him, hey, we want to give this another big tax cut under his second administration. And he started to cuss. And then he said, didn't we already give the rich people what they wanted? Something to that effect, he shouted out. Didn't we give them their tax cut already? It was like almost, what more do they want? You know, of course, he's an elitist. But I mean, the fact that behind the scenes, those words came out and kind of pissed a few people off. And the other thing was during 9/11, and this was early in his administration, which kind of made you give him a second pause. And the right wing was ready to attack Muslims. They were ready, and he said, no, we're not going to do it. We're not going to do this stereotypical thing of making 9/11 a Muslim thing, but 9/11 the things of terrorists that happened to be Muslim. I mean, look at what's going on in America right now. We have a lot of terrorists. They happen to be not Muslim, but we have a lot of terrorists in the United States right now. January 6th wasn't the inception, but January 6th was just the continuation of. Amazing. But anyhow, a study illustrates that EV fleets would save the government billions. The Supreme Court of the United States rejects a fringe theory giving omnipotent power to legislators in legislatures. Here is the perfect Obama-Trump contrast, and we'll kind of talk about that a bit later. Anyway, folks, do remember again, it's a call-in show as well, 713-526-5738. I know it's still early. You probably still have, as my daughter would say, the crocodiles in your eyes. You're wiping them out and trying to get it all ready. But anyhow, we are here now, 713-526-5738. I want to start today with the Supreme Court because I don't know if we realize the bullet that we've dodged. And one of the things that I say all of the time with our mainstream media is we don't talk about the important things that we need to talk about. And this is a very big deal. And, you know, in preparing for the show, I wanted to actually acknowledge articles that actually picked up on that. Most of them, again, that really go into the nitty-gritty of this, a lot on the progressive sites. One, Common Dreams, had an article titled, In Very big deal for the survival of our democracy. SCOTUS rejects fringe legal theory. And what was most amazing about this was that most of those courts, those judges appointed by Trump, actually came out on the right side. Well, shouldn't say right side, on the correct side of history. Anyway, democracy defenders across the United States on Tuesday breathed a collective sigh of relief after half of the U.S. Supreme Court's right-wing supermajority joined with 3 liberal justices to reject a dangerous legal theory that could dramatically impact federal elections. The Supreme Court took an important and crucial step yesterday that is, in protecting our system of checks and balances, said Hillary Harris Klein, senior counsel for voting rights at Southern Coalition for Social Justice. Today's decision will ensure that voters will continue to have the full protection of the state's constitution against harmful and anti-democratic voter suppression and election manipulation. Oral arguments for Moore versus Harper in December had some campaigners worried that at least 5 justices would embrace the independent state legislature theory. Remember that, ISLT, the independent state legislature theory, whose proponents claim the U.S. Constitution only empowers state legislatures to regulate federal elections without checks from state constitutions, courts, or governors. However, in the case which stemmed from a fight over North Carolina's congressional map, Chief Justice John Roberts, fellow conservatives Amy Coney Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh, and liberals Elena Kagan, Ketanji Brown Jackson, and Sonia Sotomayor rejected the ISLT. Right-wing justices Samuel Alito, Clarence Thomas, and Neil Gorsuch dissented. I want you guys to understand what this means before we get further into this article. I need you to understand what this means. This particular theory said the following. Based on what the Constitution said, that it's the legislators in the states who govern, who create the rules for how federal elections would occur in that particular state. They want that to be interpreted to say the following. All right, we legislator, irrespective of the governor, irrespective of the judiciary, meaning your Supreme Court, will decide however we want to run elections in our state. And if we decide that we are going to do something unconstitutional for our state, so be it. And that was the rule that Donald Trump needed to effect a soft coup. The soft coup would have been effected if and only if these particular legislators, like they attempted to do in Pennsylvania, Arizona, and a few other states, would vote against what the people in their state asked for, voted for, and said, well, the Constitution gave the legislators all the rights to decide what we are going to do about our federal elections. And then, of course, that means it enabled them to send what again? Whatever electors they wanted, they could say, we are not going to accept this particular slate of electors who are supporting, in this case, Biden. We're going to send this set of electors who elected Donald Trump. Well, not who decided that they are going to support Donald Trump when the electoral votes are counted at the Electoral College. That is what they wanted to allow. And you know what? When the soft coup was put down, that soft coup by the different state Supreme Courts, in other words, now you got to follow the rules. Remember they tried 50 different times to not only claim there was fraudulent votes, but all kinds of things they wanted to claim. they put it down, but they had the gall to take it to the Supreme Court. And since this is a Supreme Court assigned by Donald Trump, they figured they could get a win there. And what that win was going to do, and I want folks to notice and realize this in detail. While we are out here fighting about, the policy that's going to happen here and all of that, they were only interested in making sure that in these red states and in these swing states, they were able to control those legislators in those legislatures again, because then your vote would not have mattered. And if the vote was close in Wisconsin, if the vote was close in Pennsylvania, if the vote was close in PA and Georgia, because they have Republican, well, not PA anymore, legislators, they could then simply elect whomever they want, irrespective of the popular vote. I mean, the way our system is designed right now, it's bad enough. There are huge constitutional flaws right now, but some people would probably call it constitutional features to ensure that a plutocracy can reign. But I call it a constitutional flaw. Many consider it constitutional flaws. 2 senators per state. Wow. California has the same amount of senators as Montana. Completely undemocratic. You can't tell other countries about their democracies when you have a Senate not based on the people, the amount of people that's here in the country. You cannot go ahead and preach democracy to the rest of the world if you have this flaw. You cannot preach democracy to the rest of the world if you have a winner by 3 million votes, as Hillary Clinton won the popular vote in the election. And somehow you can get an electoral college that says, the minority, the people who didn't support the person with the most votes will be the president. You cannot go and preach to the rest of the world about democracy if that occurs and that exists in your country. You cannot preach democracy if Joe Biden, who had a 7.1 million vote advantage, that 21,000 votes in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Arizona. Actually, we don't even need to include Pennsylvania in there, but Georgia, Arizona, and Wisconsin would have flipped the country to the charlatan that is Donald Trump. You cannot talk about democracy. You have to live your words. Your words have to mean something. And until we correct these mistakes in our Constitution, until we make it clear in our Constitution that people reign, we were lucky for several decades. We were lucky until George W. Bush got elected in 2000, and we were lucky until Donald Trump got elected in 2016. But what Republicans have been trying to do with, again, remember the word that I said, the ISLT, the independent state legislature theory, trying every manner possible to have minority rule. That is what they're doing. A few years ago, I mentioned that if you notice, the Republicans have they're obsessed with courts. When they get into power, they attempt to get all these judges stacked. They attempt to get Supreme Court judges and all these judges into place. And the reason has always been minority rule. They understand that the policies that they support, for the plutocracy, for the rich, eventually Americans would wake up. Eventually Americans would say, why the hell am I working so hard for so little? Why the hell am I working hard as those executives get all the profits? Why the hell am I working? So we are going to elect people that right the ship, that change things around. We are going to do the right thing by the American people. They understand that. But what are they going to do about it? come to the judiciary. The judiciary is the only undemocratic portion of our institution that can become democratic, that can do democratic things. Julia, let's hear from one of our callers. Julia, come on in.
Okay.
Julia, you're on.
Should I make my comment? Yes. Should I make my comment now?
Yes, Julia, make your comment.
Okay. My comment is that the Republicans have not won the popular vote in the last, 4 or 5 elections.
Yes.
If she was on the other foot, but now the Electoral College would have been abolished. If they knew that the Democrats couldn't win the popular vote, they would have abolished the Electoral College. And the Democrats are a little bit too slow, too nice. They don't know the enemy like the Republicans know them. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hold on, Julia. I want you to hear something else before you. Here's an important answer for that. The problem isn't with the rank and file Democrats. The problem is what we call the generic Democrats. They know what they're doing. They are themselves soft Republicans. Okay? In other words, yes. there are a group of Democrats that hold the line for Republican misdeeds, and those are the ones that continue to support the filibuster. Those are the ones like Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema, and by the way, there are about 10 others that wear sheep clothing as well, but they don't allow things like the Medicare expansion bills to come up, or rather the Medicare for all bills to come up in Congress. They don't allow things for that really support the middle class America, but they're talking and playing a big game and using folks like Sinema and Manchin as a shield for their own misdeeds. So you're absolutely right. If things were different, they couldn't change the Electoral College because that is written into the Constitution. But what they would have done is they would have made sure that certain types of gerrymandering were mitigated, which would make a lot of the Electoral College shenanigans moot. Anything else, Julia?
Everything you said is true. Hello?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Because everything you say is true, but the other Democrats cuddle them. They cuddle Manchin. Why do we need him? They should have run somewhere else. They keep telling themselves someone else can win. How do they know that in his state? They cuddle these people. They tiptoe around them. And so that's part of the problem, too.
Right. Well,
I'm sorry.
I stepped on top of you. I'm sorry about that. But you said, why do they coddle them? They coddle them because they serve a purpose, Julia. They actually work for the money as well. If you take a look at Lieberman, who was singularly responsible for removing the public option from the Medicaid, from the Affordable Care Act, they were owned by the corporatocracy. And again, they were supported by other Democrats. They gave them legs. Anything else, Julia, before we continue?
No, thank you so much. And I really enjoy your show. Thank you.
Thank you so kindly, Julia. You have a wonderful day. Folks, the telephone number is 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. If you're just coming on, we are recapping the great decision and shocking decision by the Supreme Court. We didn't expect such a favorable decision on this particular issue by the Supreme Court. I think, let me tell you what I'm thinking, people. I'm thinking the following. I'm thinking that the Supreme Court has been under such attack with their fraud and their corruption, meaning Alito getting stuff from billionaires, Clarence Thomas getting stuff from billionaires. Now we find out about real estate deals with Barry Coney-Barrett. I think they're starting to say, we better not hurt the middle class much more, or we may get the revolt that we fear on the Supreme Court. Well, I tell you what, we can't hold back. Those 4 additional Supreme Court in Ed Markey's new bill needs to go through. The 4 justices that Ed Markey says we need to add to the Supreme Court, that must go through when the House is won back by Democrats in 2024. And notice I said when, because as it turns out, the only thing it's existential for the United States of America is for us to fix the Supreme Court and to ensure that we get a democratic Congress. That is not up for debate as far as whether it's good for us or not. We have to understand that democracy right now is at risk. When you see a lot of past Republicans, even some that remain Republicans, when you see them come out and say, you know what? We have to save our democracy. Obama, I have a little snippet here from Obama where he talks about at this point in our existence, we have a undemocratic faction. Let's go to Jeff. Come on in, Jeff, as we fix the other one. Jeff, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Great. Talk to me, Jeff.
Hey, I listen to your show all the time. I'm pretty right, but I like to get a different opinion.
Yes, sir.
And, different viewpoints. But I have to disagree with you on the Senate thing you talked about, saying that, it was unfair that, everybody gets just 2 senators for each state.
Okay. Tell me why you disagree, sir.
Well, think about it. I mean, you got California, you got New York, and you got all those big cities, and they have a large population. And then you have the smaller states, Iowa, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. And if we had more senators, those big states would overrule. It would, they could control the whole United States pretty much with those big states. And it'd be left these people out on how the government should run. Do you agree or not agree?
First of all, you are 100% correct that the policies of those people in California and New York and Michigan and Florida and Texas would have a lot more weight because you have they qualify for more senators. But I'm sure that you don't believe that 1,000 people, if 1,000 people think one way while 1 million people think another way, that we should simply coalesce to the 1,000. Do you?
Well, I mean, I'm a firm believer in states' rights. I think a lot of the problems nowadays is states' rights. I think the government was originally established to oversee certain items, treaties, and it's just gotten way too big, the federal government. I think everything should be back to the states. That's my opinion.
All right. And you know what? And your opinion is valid. That's a valid opinion to say you want to put everything back to the states. But let's give a few things here. And I'd like to engage you and ask you these questions honestly, right? Right now, okay. There are a lot of red states and blue states. Okay. They're about close to being equal, about 24 to 26. 24 versus 26, I believe, if I got my count correct. But there are a lot more people in blue states than there are people in red states. Now, here's the other issue. The other issue is, while you're saying you believe in state rights and, states should get the right to do things the way they do, which they pretty much do right now, but we are a federal system. And in this federal system, these particular red states really depend on what blue states have given to the federal government. If we look at Alabama, Mississippi, and all these other states, they are states that depend on the servicing from the federal government. In other words, their low tax policies is not sustainable because the blue states are sustaining the red states because they have these low tax policies. And we can go from when we come to things like the states, state right says, okay, if I want to have certain policies, I have it. You look at red states, teenage, things like divorce rates are much higher, murders are much higher. All these things are much higher. And it's good. They want it that way, right? But at the same time, you're asking to say you want to have preeminent. I'm not talking to you, sir. I'm talking about, the theory, the red state theory. You want to have that power to tell folks, we want to have more power than our numbers indicate when in these particular states, just about every particular social issue and every particular economic issue is worse than in blue states. So you're asking, I mean, not you, but red states are asking for more power for having worse outcomes on just about every issue. And if you can tell me a particular issue that you think I am wrong at, please do.
Well, what about, let's look at the murder rates going on in the,
Yes,
and
sir.
those are mainly in blue states,
Yes.
blue major cities. And Houston is unfortunately a blue city now. And
Okay, can I answer that?
On that.
Let me answer that, because the one thing I love, first of all, I want to thank you again, Jeff, for calling. You're a right-wing guy and you're calling into a show like this. That is what we have to start doing, communicating among each other with truths, right? So thank you for being here, first of all. Now, secondly, the murder rate in big cities all over, whether red states or blue states or blue cities, or red cities that are really red in red states, the murder rate is higher. And the issue really isn't red state, blue states there, right? It's economic conditions that causes these particular issues, right? The idea that New York is dangerous is not true, right? It's something that people like to say, but New York is safer than Oklahoma City.
Yeah, New York's okay.
And Chicago, by the way, Chicago is safer than also Oklahoma City. So what I'm saying is, you don't hear that if you're watching, let's say, a Fox News or something like that, because they don't care about the numbers. They care about the sensationalism, right? Chicago is a big media market. New York is a big media market. Houston is a big media market. So crimes are accentuated there. But if you go to Brenham, Texas, where per capita crime may be higher than Houston, you won't see it because Brenham is a low media area, while here in Houston, I'm just using Brenham as an example. I don't have the rates for Brenham, but I'm just using it as an example. But it's about media markets and what people show. So what I'm trying to say, brother, is the following. We have to sit, when we are talking these issues, you can believe in state rights. You have that right. And I think states have that right to have certain things as state rights. But at the same time, I think if you want that, what do they say? If you want that responsibility, then don't ask to have the power to bring somebody else to the state where you're at, is all I'm saying. Go ahead, please, Jeff.
Okay. Well, I kind of agree with that. But, basically, America's, it's not a democracy, it's a republic.
Exactly.
Anything else. That's, and that republic is, the states' rights. The United States.
No. Here's what republic really means, and that is where it upsets me that Fox News, OAN, and these other channels mislead the people who have trust in them, because it misleads it. Republic means representative democracy. What it means is that you don't directly do certain things with your vote. You elect others, elect others to represent you, right? And that's what we do. The problem that I have personally, again, is that this representative republic has flaws that make it non-representative. That North Carolina has a supermajority of Republicans in the House of Representatives when it's a 50-50 split between Democrats and Republicans is unfair and it's not representative. You don't hear a lot of people in red states complaining about that Wisconsin have a supermajority of Democrats when they're more of Republicans when there are more Democrats than Republicans in Wisconsin. It's not fair, and it's not a democracy. And we, in my opinion, and we cannot preach democracy to the rest of the world when we don't have democracy in the United States, and not even a republic in the United States. Go ahead, Jeff, before I go to the next caller.
Food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you so kindly for calling in, Jeff. All right, let's go ahead and go to Johnny. Come on in, Johnny. You're hot, Johnny. Johnny, I can't hear you. Maybe I see there are two Johnnies online. Maybe there's some issue with one of them, maybe. All right. That's interesting. Anyway, let's continue until I can get to actually hear Johnny's words. But right now we can't hear.
We're going to go to John instead.
Okay.
Johnny must have gotten disconnected somewhere along the way, and that does happen. So let's welcome in John.
Come on, John. How are you doing this morning?
Well, okay. Go ahead with your points, and we'll get Johnny ready to go.
Okay, no problem, folks. A little bit of phone problems every now and then. But anyway, folks, I was so happy to hear from Jeff. And I'd like others to call so that we can have the conversation of these issues. Because as you can see, what Jeff said was important. Jeff said, food for thought. If I hear and by the way, Jeff gives me things for thought as well. If we can get to the position of all of us listening to the point of view of everybody. I mean, you don't have to agree, but listen to the point of view, then we can see it. Eric Hayes, the things that I spoke about when it comes to crime, etc., those weren't opinions, those were facts. And if we can just get everybody to say, here are the facts, how do we build around those particular facts? It doesn't, the building around facts don't have to be the same, but at least we have to acknowledge that they are, in fact, facts. Anyway, so we dodged the bullet with the Supreme Court. Very, very important. That independent, what is it called again? The ISLT. The ISLT got pushed down. Independent state legislature theory got thrown out by the Supreme Court justices. Thank our lucky stars for that. All right, but here's the further deal, folks. Here's the further deal that we have to go into. It's not over. And why is it not over? Because in as much as these legislators now have to follow their own constitution, many of these judges in states like Texas and otherwise, they are elected. And they are elected with a certain bias. Good for us that the Supreme Court has been under so much pressure that I think it embarrasses them that they would have come out with 2 voter suppression rules if they had not supported Alabama and North Carolina in these last 2 things. But they did. We're happy for that. But 2 more rulings are coming out of the Supreme Court this week, likely. Whether the Obama student loan relief is going to be accepted, number 1. And number 2, whether, come on, it looks like Johnny is ready. Let's see if we can get Johnny on the air, and see if it'll work this time. Come on in, Johnny. Let's see if we can get you on air. Are you there?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. I can hear you now. So I guess they fixed the tin cans and strings in the studio. Talk to me, Johnny.
I blame it on Republicans. By the way, to Jeff should be concerned about so-called states' rights. He expressed to you that he's a right-winger guy, and I'm guessing he supports the GOP. So he should be reminded, if he's not aware already, that states' rights are under attack 24/7, 365 by his party, his people, his tribe. And one of the ways they're doing it is through an undemocratic mechanism called ALEC, ALEC, American Legislative Exchange Council. And by doing that, they create legislation. These corporate lawyers on the right create legislation that's favorable to big business, and they put it down word for word, and then they pass it on to each state. And within a matter of hours or days, miraculously, mysteriously, a whole bunch of right-wing run states have the same laws being passed. How is that happening?
Johnny, I am so glad you brought up ALEC. We've been fighting ALEC. I've been in several organizations, Move to Amend, Coffee Party USA, Blue State. We've been trying to fight ALEC for decades, for a long time right now. And it's important for people, the American Legislation Economic Council, these guys are corporate guys. that write the legislation and just give it to a legislator to sponsor. And that's why you'll see laws in Oklahoma, Texas, Florida, and all these other states look identical, because there is this group of executives and executives that write laws for the states, and all of them adopt them. It's a mess. It is one of the reasons why we say democracy must come back. But I want to give Jeff kudos, Johnny, because if we are going to make change, Johnny, we are going to have to get people on board, and we are going to have to reach to the hearts and minds of people. And the way Jeff ended our conversation, our very civil conversation, he said, food for thought. You and I believe that people should be doing critical thinking. You and I also believe that Republicans in general, they want to ensure that people don't think critically. And in so doing, in having a Jeff call into a progressive show like this and leave not cursing, but leave saying food for thought, I think notice what I said, we, all of us, including Jeff, we're accomplishing that mission. Go ahead, Johnny.
Yeah, people like Jeff have to come on our side and help us. We can't do this by ourselves. He is the only one. He and his fellow Republican private citizen voters who vote for GOP, they need to hold the Republican Party into account. That's one of the ways that we have to act, along with other things, along with mass protests, boycotting certain companies that exhibit hostile policies towards their employees, their customers, clients, and all that kind of thing. Right now in the state of Texas, it's okay for companies, private businesses, to do whatever they want, and they can do it legally and not be challenged. If you want to challenge them in court, guess what? You have to pay for the court fees, lawyers' fees, if you lose.
Right.
It's ridiculous what's happening right now. Florida is trying to do the same thing that we've done. And we have to get rid of these Republican Party politicians, and we have to get rid of the centrist Democrats in the leadership of the Democratic Party. There's so much to be done, and we can't do it alone. We need people like Jeff to wake up and recognize that what's going on is a hollowing out of our democratic governing structure.
Absolutely so. Absolutely so. And again, and that's why you notice on our, we do this show at 3:00, another version of this show at 3:00 on the internet, and we have quite a few conservatives in there, and we go through our machinations, etc. But the idea is that is how the change is going to, that is how we start to effect change. And you know what, man? You have to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere. Johnny, thank you so kindly for calling. Thank you kindly for having those great thoughts. And thank you so kindly for bringing up ALEC, the American Legislation Economic Council. Very important body. Look it up, folks. ALEC. It's a dangerous piece of equipment, and we've been fighting it for a long time. Thank you, Johnny.
Another dangerous situation we have is when we vote for president. We don't vote for him directly. It has to go for that stupid electoral college.
Electoral college, right. That's what Julia was talking about when she called in earlier today as well. Thank you very much, Johnny. We talk. Anyway, folks, it's clear we are not going to get to all our 4 subjects. So do remember to go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, where we have the entire links to the program that we're covering today. Very, very, very important. Anyhow, so to close up this independent, I know it says ISLT, but I always forget, independent state legislature theory. To close this subject out, I want you guys to know that you have to keep the pressure on locally. We had issues with the pressure right here in the state of Texas, because again, what's going on again? Oh my God. These guys are doing it. Alistair is on the line. Let's go, Alistair. Come on in, my dear sis.
Hey, brother. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about was the whole, blue cities or red cities crime, regardless. But with the right side spewing that blue cities have a higher crime rate than any other. It's not fully a city problem, right? Because the state who has the power over the laws and has the power over the police, the jurisdictions, and all of that. So you can't go pointing fingers at city. With the guy that called earlier. You can't point your finger at the cities and say it's a city problem. Well, if the city would be allowed to do their job and protect and serve the way that particular city sees fit without having overreach from the state government, I bet you money that the cities would be safer.
Look, absolutely. So, there's another thing that isn't mentioned, Alistair, that I think is very important, right? If you have a city of 3-point-something million people, like the Houston metropolitan area, right? And you get 500 killings, that sounds like a lot. But then if you have a city, and I'm using this just off the cuff because I lived in Brenham, Texas, right?
Yeah.
If you go to a place like Brenham, Texas, where 5 people get killed, right? The number is small, but the per capita is huge, and that's what folks are realizing in red states now. Go ahead.
Exactly. No, exactly. If you look at things at a per capita instance, that really provides a more accurate count, so to speak. Now, another thing that you did address, one of the persons in our chat on YouTube was discussing, inability to vote, voter suppression, running out of paper ballots in Harris County and things like that. That was very minor in the grand scheme of voter suppression. And I know for a fact, because I have volunteered to be a part of elections, and I know for a fact that it's more like locations in certain areas are shut down because they don't want people from that area to vote.
Right. It's a known thing, Alistair.
Yeah.
So I am glad that you
picked up and sent over to another location, which was done.
Exactly. Well, look, Alistair, thank you so kindly for calling in with some that important commentary. It is something that we need folks to hear, because too often what we get is people misled. And again, like one of the reasons I say all of the times, Alistair, you don't see me getting mad or whatever with the opposition, and you see how we deal with it in on our 3:00 program in the chat room, etc. Is that we have to understand that you have to build trust with people first, and I don't have a problem spending the time and the effort necessary to build that trust.
Communication. In order for effective communication, you got to be civil with one another. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, I want to play a piece with Red State, but anyway, Alistair, thank you so kindly. I got a piece here to play, and it's not a part of the show, but it's because of Jeff. I just want to something that Tice spoke about, and I want to put that on. So I'm going to play that and let folks hear this. You may hear a little reverb in the background, but here we go, folks. Listen. I want you to listen to this because it's an important statement. Check this out. Let me start it over.
What would be how about staying married? How about that? You know the state with the lowest divorce rate in the country? It's Massachusetts. By far the lowest divorce rate. You know the highest divorce rate? It's in the book. Something like 8 out of the 10 highest divorce rate states.
Yeah, while Egberto is starting over his video, Alistair, you want you to hang on. Well, actually, she's already gone. Johnny, not Johnny.
Okay, no, that was my fault. That was my fault. I guess there's something. I tried to play it from the internet, but it didn't work. But let's go ahead and go to Jose. Jose, you're on.
Hello.
Yes, you're here, Jose.
Yes, sir. I was just wanting to comment on that guy, Jeff.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Talking about crime. New York City is safe? Or you have your head buried in the sand? Have you
No,
ever
sir.
heard of the subway system in New York?
Say that again.
Come on, man. That's one of the most dangerous places in the world.
Why would you say that, sir?
And have you been on the subway where they're pushing people on the railroad track? The guy got choked out the other day for
Yes.
accosting women. People were getting raped, robbed. I mean, look at the videos. Look it up.
Okay, Jose. Jose.
Let's go back to Brenham.
Yeah.
Because I know Brenham, you know Brenham. My mother was born and raised in Brenham. So.
And I went to Blinn College in Brenham for 1 year. Yes.
So did I. I went for 2 years. And Brenham is safe because if you go up there and you act up, the police will put you in jail.
Mm-hmm.
And Alistair, you need to get your head out of the sand if you think Houston is safe. Egberto, you think Houston is safe. I pray for you because you
Jose.
better be careful.
Jose.
It's the most dangerous city in the nation.
Okay, Jose. Jose. Don't hang up. I want to engage you. Do not hang up. Here's the deal. All right. It is easy when things are placed on TV to get an impression of how things are not. The fact of the matter is, New York City is a lot safer than Oklahoma City. That, there are certain things that are not up for debate. The numbers says it all, right? If you go ahead and you look at what crimes are occurring in any particular city, these are things that you can document. It is okay. You can see, I can make you believe that Houston is the most dangerous city. This city of 3-point-something million people with neighborhood after neighborhood after neighborhood with thousands of neighborhoods in this city. But when you watch your news in the mornings and in the afternoons, every day, let's say there are 10 neighborhoods that something happens in, right? That becomes the reality that most people see. But when you look at the totality of the number, I could get robbed or I could get killed in Houston tomorrow. I could likewise get robbed and killed in Brenham tomorrow. It has a lot to do with what part of a city you are in. And the folks that you hang around, and that's what it's really like, sir. The fact of the matter is, if you see somebody at a bank that got robbed out of the hundreds of thousands of locations they can get money in the city, it's no different than one person getting robbed in Brenham over 10 years. What I'm trying to say is the following, Jose. It is easy for us to caricature things. It is easy for us to go out there and see the blood and stuff that the news tells you, and then you instantiate that in your head. Alistair is correct. And what I'm saying is, with all due respect, you are in fact incorrect because the number, like I said, as an engineer, all I care about are numbers. All I care about are numbers when I'm looking at things. And the numbers are not debatable. The fact of the matter is Oklahoma City is orders of magnitude more dangerous than New York City. And to put it bluntly, San Francisco, you hear on Fox News how bad San Francisco is, really bad. And even San Francisco is safer than these are. So what I'm saying, there are two things we can choose to do, Brother Jose, is the following. We can choose to continue with the rhetoric that's not going to change anything in this country, that won't make things better. Or we can say, oh, I guess the people that I trusted with this information, I should not have trusted. I'm telling you, I should be able to earn your trust because I have the numbers on my side. You can say as you please, my dear brother. But the fact of the matter is, on this issue, because it's dealing with numbers and not hyperbole, I am right. Go ahead, Jose, and then we got to go to tag.
Well, black on black crime is what the crime is. And
There is no difference between black on black crime or white on white crime. You see, these are things that are thrown into the ethos by the right, which bears no reality. Black on black crime is at 90 something percent. White on white crime is at 90%. They are functionally equal because people effect crimes in the places they are. And that is what occurred. And again, if we want to get intelligent, if we want to actually not just go ahead and spend our time listening to fallacies, and we really want to make a difference, let's learn the truth. That's all I'm saying, Jose. Anything else before I run to tag?
Yes, the root of that problem is fatherless homes.
Again, like I repeat again, Jose, those are tropes. Again, there is no difference between the crime rate when normalized for poverty, jobs, etc., and when normalized for who, and not only that, and people who kill each other are generally people who are around each other. It doesn't have, look, the fatherless child, all of that is in every community. Yes, it is larger for historical reasons in the black community, but again, let's get the numbers right and stop allowing things to be racialized. Let's jump to Tag now because I want to get Tag a few moments to speak. Go ahead, Tag.
Yes, I think I heard Richard Haas say this yesterday. I thought was very prolific. When the original 13 states were formed, there were 3 million people.
Yes.
And now there's 100 times that, 350 million people. And the founders had a big argument about states' rights versus a strong federal government. They decided it would be best to have a strong federal government. And the reason being is because if you don't have a strong federal government, trying to keep 50 states together and 330 million people would be trying to herd cats, which we
got to let you go. Tag, you're absolutely right, but I got to get you go because we are right here on the number. Thank you so kindly for calling in. You have a great day. Okay, I'm going to be closing up here, but want to hear a quick thought from Howard Reynolds and just 15 seconds each. Howard Reynolds and Senor Van Beber.
Well, it's going to be another great day here at the radio station. We have Susan coming up with Border Radio at 9:30, and Jack has something to say here, so we'll throw it to him.
Real quick, Jack.
I just wanted to tell, Bart, sorry we hung up on you. Call back each time. Each call is important here. We want to get you on the air. But I get to doing a few things and I mess up sometimes. So please call back.
You're doing a great job. Jack Van Beber, thank you for being there every morning. Thank you so kindly. Same appears to Howard Reynolds. My name is Egberto Willis. I want to thank all the audience. I want to thank all the callers. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics and Right. You guys know I end this baby. I am what? Out. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number 1, subscribe to our channel, and number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.